Hello everybody, so here again with our new Europeans Perspectives, the number 9, and tonight we will discuss about the crisis of Western civilization. Fighting back the obscurantism, where to begin? So, in this transmission, we have, as usual, several invited persons from different nations of Europe. So, we are 2 Italian, 2 French, Romanian, and Spain. So, always diversity. In the face of collapse of rationality at the heart of Western civilization and in the general context of change of paradigm, both dramatically accelerated by the pandemic, we are all lost in translation. And so, rethinking the aims, principle, context, methods, tool, and vehicle of education appear as an existential priority. The academic world is rich of ideas in this regard, full of all matter required to lay down the foundation of the next model. But the gigantic amounts of money thrust in patching the waning economy hardly find the path of school and university. Any coherent vision anyway is missing, and we are left to wonder what relevant decision-making level has the political capacity to induce their invention. It is on the last aspect that our conversation will focus tonight, where to begin. But of course, a basic element for a coherent vision based on the analysis of the nature of the crisis will be addressed to by our guest. So we have Marie-Hélène Cagliol, that is President of Laboratoire of European Anticipation Politics and Policy Director of GIB by LIP, Maram Rencontrière, President of Citizen Root, Jeta Grama Moldovan, that of LIP 2040, José María Compagnie Morales, Managing Director of Diocensas and Marketing Professor at ITE, and Roberto Peron, Secretary of Education Department of Roosevelt, Italia. So I will give the word to Marie-Hélène to introduce the context and to do some questions to our invited guest.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for this new edition of the New European Perspectives. I would like to, briefly introduce to the topic. You just did, but I would like to add a few elements in terms of maybe the word obscurantism seems strong. We think that today it is really relevant to make parallels, historical parallels between other periods of obscurantism and today. This kind of problematic is drawn from the work of anticipation we do in the Global Europe Anticipation Bulletin, which is our monthly publication. It's published in 5 languages: French, English, German, Spanish, and Italian. There is an Italian version too. And from these monthly analysis since 16 years, we have a vision of the global systemic transition, how the world is shifting from a model to another one. It's not just the world, it's in particular the Western world. Of course, the whole world is changing, but the Western civilization model is questioned because it was our model which ran the world during the last, at least century and maybe more than that, because in fact the Europe and the Western world came as a major global player in the years 1500, 1600, in a context of revolutions, technological revolutions, which today have to be put in parallel with what we live today. And these huge technological revolutions are usually very often followed by problems of losses of repères, of benchmarks, which can correspond to cognitive collapse completely, and the emergence of obscurantism, which we think we clearly are already in the sense that we have to, of course, what seems obvious when we talk about obscurantism is all the conspiracy theories, the fake news. We all know about this stance on this part of obscurantism, but we need to look at the fact that our mainstream media also have elements which are about obscurantism in the sense that there is a negation of critical thinking, because sometimes, we need to distinguish between what is conspiracy theory and what is questioning the information, etc., which is a sound exercise, and which more and more seems to be an exercise which we are not really invited to do. And I would like to give the definition that I found just now on internet on what is obscurantism. It describes the practice of deliberately presenting information in an imprecise, abstruse manner designed to limit further inquiry and understanding. So we see in this definition that the first part can relate somehow into these conspiracy theories, which indeed part of it goes really too far by providing answers and not just questioning. But what we have in our educational and especially media system is a negation of critical thinking and questioning capacity. The result is that we have today we think of an upside down world where sometimes, I was just reading today an article called China says that the vaccines, that the rich countries should stop keeping all the vaccines for themselves and should share. China is the baddie. That's the kind of thing that they say. And on the other side, we have the US, which is supposed to be the goodie, and which keeps sanctioning, and that was another article that I found, sanctioning the whole world and crossing all borders of sovereignty. And for instance, we have this case currently, which is Nord Stream 2, where clearly the US are sanctioning Europe for decisions which are, of course, belong to European sovereignty. So we have this kind of upside down situations where, and in fact, I will talk about this later, the fact that there is a need to stop judging and to look at reality to understand it, rather than keeping on saying baddies, goodies, etc., which is the current situation. There is a cult of cultures, a cultural relativism also, which is very much in our culture today, and which results in the acceptability of creationism over Darwinism, for instance. We know that creationism is completely counter-scientific, but nevertheless, due to our cultural relativity, we shouldn't be bad with these with people like creationalists. So we have a division of society in terms of understanding of reality. We have new religions. We have religions which are back, but we have new religions like the Silicon Valley religions, which are being invented, where the AI is some kind of a god, and there will be those who follow the rules and who will be in paradise of AI, and it does exist. I look up on internet, it does exist. So you have all sets of events like that which do belong to obscurantism, and we must make a parallel between the printing revolution, which conducted indirectly to the religious wars, and today the internet revolution, where we are reaching a level of collapse of rationality. The dangers are, of course, wars, civil wars. It can last very long. It can be and we need to be aware of all these challenges. and be back to Lumière, to the Enlightenment. That's how the whole obscurantism ended in 3 centuries ago with the Enlightenment. Back to rationality, to commonly agreeable science in a world where it seems for now that no one holds the truth anymore. And we think that indeed, and we are going to address these different angles today in our discussion, education, of course, but also information and the media, and also citizenship are 3 relevant angles to address and try by all means to fight back darkness.
Okay, thanks, Maria-Hélène. So I think that you have some question for each of our invited guests. So we can begin with Jose Maria Company.
Yes, Pepe, thank you for being here. And you are precisely to start on the topic of education for all.
Thanks to you, Maria-Hélène. Happy to be here, to be in this again European group, discussing about the important issues, in life. It's true that I like very much history, and then during the last years I am digging a bit into my family history. So then. Which I think is a good way to understand the past. So then I see that some of them were belonging to, let's say, this more conservative part of the society, and then others were more into the radical part. Always we have in our society, let's say, I would say between 10 and 20% of very conservative people, that they manifest in different ways, and they have been always in history, and I think they will always be there. And then also we have another 20 or 20%, another minority that they are quite, let's say, more for the revolution, for the change, and for the in some cases also extremism in the other side. So then, while society in peace will keep these 2 groups as a minority, let's say, as within this 10-20%, in periods like this one, like the one we are living now, it's true that they have the chance to become a majority. And so then suddenly you could see that they pass from 10% to the 40% or even to the 50%, and then the other group will do it as well. So then we live difficult moments. What to do against this how to keep the balance between this society and to keep moving ahead and to progress. I strongly think that the best recipe is education, and education understood not as a formal education, so not schools or universities, of course as well, but within our societies that are so liquid. Let's say, to use one term that is quite modern. We need to understand education as a pedagogic effort done by many people in society from different angles. So then we are also living a big change, apart from let's say, seeing the decadence of the world of yesterday and looking new emergence. So a difficult moment. We saw a mega trend like the globalism, and that is failing. And then we are seeing a new trend, which is the local resurgence, interest in local economies. I think that is good, this move to the local roots, but still we need a frame that, like, to me, is Europe. A frame, let's say, to protect these new local movements in the world. Then you need this education, and then following all these trends, the education is not coming anymore from only from formal institutions, but should come from the civil society. This is a concept that is very, very critical. It's not easy to handle. I tend to think that the civil society that should be vertebrated by the political parties. This is not happening anymore. So political parties failed to let's say to get the essence of to interpret the society. So then it's up to us, it's up to the civil society to respond to these challenges. And then we have a microenvironment within the civil society, which are the industries. So let's say we are movement Roosevelt. We are this is it is in the I don't know how to call it, the social political industry. Let's say, no. So then I think we need to make an effort of coordination within every industry. For instance, I'm coming from a complete, I'm working in a complete different environment, which is the industrial environment. But I must say that I am being very successful to mobilize one microenvironment, one specific industry, and then promote certain values and change some dynamics within this microenvironment. Of course, to do these efforts, these pedagogical educational efforts in one environment is not enough. So what I think could be a good way for the future is that we connect economic, educational, political, cultural, why not religious leaders or leading groups in every industry in order to agree on certain values and then promote them together. There is something else. I'd like to say, I'm teaching on the one hand in the business school. I teach normally to executives working with 10, 15 years of experience and working worldwide in big multinationals. It's very expensive MBA, and then they are fantastic, very clever, and executives. Then I teach as well in the architecture school of architecture and design, and then they have a quite different profile. With both groups, we do, let's say, entrepreneurship projects. It's very interesting to see the trend of the social entrepreneurships. So how, especially architects, tend that all their business projects are related to something, to social issues, social, ecological, all these type of things. I think it's very good to promote these groups to provide to our youthness something alternative to typically work for a big bank or a big multinational, and then encourage them to start these social projects, and then telling them how to manage as well, no? And because the addition of all these movements and all these microenvironments, I think, will create a powerful civil society that will provide, let's say, an stability and a common sense for all the future changes. And this is my contribution so far.
Okay, thank you, Pepe, a lot. It's very important to think in a big scheme and paradigm, and above all together, because this is the direction of also movement Roosevelt about human rights and the progress of the society. So it's important for democratic issue, the discussion between citizens, take in hand their destiny and discuss about this subject. Maria Hélène, so for the context of the information challenges.
Yes, alors, yes, my contribution, apart from this introduction that I made earlier, is about information precisely, which of course is the media are the best possible tool for permanent education. That's what they're meant for, they're meant to be. But of course, they belong to clearly, I think, even more than education. I think education is very much being reinvented today. I don't know if you will agree with me on that, Pepe and Roberto. But well, I think really the reflection is very profound in the education. As to the information, the reflection may be there, but we don't see yet a very big progress. We still have very outdated system on the side of the mains of the TV, for instance, the kind of and on the other side you have this internet, which provides the new environment for providing information, but which is completely chaotic, and the reflection seems to be nowhere in terms of how to cure, to solve that, to organize all that. So what do we have today? I think I was thinking that preparing this meeting, that we should distinguish in terms of information between news and media, which is sometimes completely blurred. The news is there. That's the good news. The good news is that the news is here. It's on the net. For instance, the GIB is completely building its analysis from these news that are available on internet. So we have an immense sea of information, which is not just fake news, which is real information, of course. And we have the media. Y a un bruit là. Ça fait un...
On peut fermer les micros.
Voilà. Voilà, merci. So the media, in the word media, we have intermediary. So it is what intermediates between us and this mass of news, in fact, which has always been available, but not available, which has always been present, but which was less easily accessible. And so what is really dysfunctioning, I think we think today, is the media itself, which means the TV sets, as I said, the home pages, the social medias, all these tools which select the information and present it to the individuals that we are. So how to renew the navigating tools on this deep sea of news that we have. And so, obviously it has to be on the internet mostly, but maybe there can be combinations, complementarities, which could be rethought between this TV set that we have that is still there and that could still make some sense if it was indeed better combined with the internet and with the common purpose of trying to find a way for all this information to come to the people in a way that it enhances their capacity, our capacity to understand reality. Reality is changing very fast, but there are ways, and for instance, the GIB is an exercise, a monthly exercise to make sense out of something which seems completely chaotic, but which is not. I mean, the global systemic transition that we are in is very historicizable yet already. I mean, and if there was a possibility for people to understand better this trend, this movement that we're in, it would be, first of all, I think, very reassuring, and people would less probably panic and become more, get the feeling that they can recontrol again the environment they live in, and therefore contribute. See the perspective of their being back into contributing to that. So we need to be back to a knowledge-based information. I think that's also very important. I was mentioning it earlier. I think today we have a media system which is only about judging. We judge as individuals. We on social medias, the media, the journalists, they keep judging now who's good, who's bad. It seems to be everywhere in this media system, I would say, and this really, to me, is the main problem that we need to address today, and that's about what enlightenment was about, going back to knowledge, going back to knowledge-based, fact-based, distinguishing between facts from the internet and interpretations, which can be interesting to know, but they are only interpretations. So what are the facts? How can we check them also, etc. So, and there is another thing which is about this fake news phenomenon, which we think is a very dangerous topic, because when you say fake news, you paralyze thinking, in fact, and critical thinking in a way. So what we say, for instance, at GIB, we say we're not so much interested in fake news or not fake news. Every news is it's mostly the kind of news you select, which can be flawed anyway. So we think that we need to look at all these news thinking about two ways of rationalizing. It's crossing the source, an information that you bring from the internet it has to be sourced. You have to know who said it. You have to understand what the bias of the person or the group that says that is. And then you can have a beginning of an understanding of a fact. If you cross the source and the content, you have an information. And so that's enough. That's enough. When you have, Sputnik media saying something, they might have their bias, but they don't lie. I mean, it's there's no fake news there. It's just their angle on reality. And once you know that they're Russian and that they have this and that angle and you respect it, you can get some information interesting to understand how the Russians think, which is what I think what we should do rather than keep on, as I said, judging everyone. So reality is produced by human society, and so analyzing the news in this sense, and that's why the connection between who produces and what is produced is interesting. So I think it's a line of reflection for that. Then there is also if we think of new ways of aggregating the information with a purpose, which the purpose being to understand reality, because that's the kind of solution we could be heading toward. I would like to highlight one type of media that I think is counterexample of this very critical way of presenting that I just did. It's the specialized media. If you look at an energy specialized media, you will find very balanced and rational information. Why? Because their purpose is really to understand what's going on, because it's money is involved. Okay, so they don't just want to judge and say, oh, they are bad, they are good. They want to know what's going on. They want to understand what the strategies of the players are. And I think that's where we need to indeed have, like the specialized media, a whole variety of aggregators of news, which choose, of course, they will select the information from the net in a way that has a purpose that makes sense with regards to this or that objective, professional or personal, etc. But therefore, where you really need to understand what really is going on. A few lines of which we think are relevant to reorganize information is future orientation, the purpose being to understand the world that is being built. So that's a purpose to read the news, to understand what is brewing, the kind of world we're going to have according to the decisions which are made today. So the future orientation is relevant. The global and systemic angle is also a way to relativize, take a perspective on reality, and move away from this multicultural relativity that we are to a fact-based action and decision-making system worldwide. Then it's interesting to take into account the variety of standing points. And then the very important aspect, as I was saying, is that reality is made by the people. So definitely we should have media systems which embark the people and society, not just as spectators or as gamers, let's say, but as actors, really. And so on a media system which would be really fact-based could be also inviting a far larger number of people. Pepe, you were mentioning all this civil society. I mean, the people are interesting to interview, to ask what they do, not what they think, because you will notice that in our media today, it's opinion everywhere. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? No, what do they do? What do they do? What you do in your company in terms of preparing for the digitalization of your business? What do you do in a school in terms of adapting your education and pedagogy? And I don't think that today the mic is really handed to the people, that knowing that it's and of course it's a disconnect from society, from the society that our media is supposed to cover. So these are a few elements that we think would be relevant to introduce in terms of reinventing a media system that works. This intermediation also is very important. We think that journalists have become more filters of information than providers and explainers of information. So they should really reconsider that their role as being more neutral which is what they're supposed to be by training normally, but they are very unneutral and very subjective. Voilà, here is a number. So the main aim, so I would just say something, it's the democratization. That's what I was about, democratization of the information system. We think that's what we have already, democratization, but it seems today that democracy and the jungle rule, there is a today, what we have in terms on the internet is not democratization of information; it's the jungle rule. Okay, so it needs democracy is ruled, and what kind of rules could we have? There is the notion of respect, of openness, of fact orientation, integrating biases and crossing sources and information. There are some rules which we think can help these regulators of the internet and those in the media, TV system, etc., to rethink their content. The main aim would be to bring everyone back into a common framework of understanding. That's we need to avoid also totalitarianism, of course. So it's just a common framework of understanding, one that has to find the features of universality in the 21st century and avoiding totalitarianism.
Yes. And so about anticipation and what to say about media, Jeta, what can you say? You are in charge for the GIB, the Global European Organization, donc anticipation. So.
Yes, thank you, Maria. Well, Maria-Hélène has already told us many things about the GIB that I wanted to say and noted down to make sure that I pass the information to you. So, but I would like to go back to what Maria-Hélène said at the beginning, the definition of obscurantism, our topic of today. And it's true that it's, in my opinion, this practice of deliberately hiding information and keeping it, making sure that it's not known. And I cannot help myself but thinking about how anti-democratic this is, because I feel like where is my freedom of understanding information, of looking for information, interpreting that information, if that information is hidden from me? And who is that person, or who takes this responsibility to keep people away from information or to mislead people on wrong tracks in order to pass the wrong information? And also, I was thinking about a comparison with religion. I'm an Orthodox Christian, but not very, practicant. And I know that there was this sentence, believe and do not doubt, that I'm sure many of you heard of. And many priests and pastors pass along to Christians that is taken from the Bible. And in fact, I looked over the internet today and I found out that it's not even in the Bible. But a lot of people pass this word to other people saying that it was in the Bible. So of course, I will not say that it's a fake news. I'm just saying that sometimes people use information and convince other people that that information is true and taken for granted because it was taken from a holy book or a book that a lot of people accept as the rule. And I'm saying this is also what's happening now today on the internet. There are a lot of information that is just put there for us, very well packed and wrapped up and delivered as the absolute truth. And just because it's on the internet, many of us believe that it's truth, just like you said, Maria-Hélène, at the time when the printing machine came and when something was written in a book, it was more relevant and more credible than something that was transmitted orally. So do we run the same risks today with internet? And how can we make sure that all the generations, not just the next generations, the youngsters, but also the elderly, now using internet on a daily basis, how can we make sure that they know what to do with the information that is delivered to them? how can we make sure that all that information that is emotionally impacting them is most probably fake or biased or taking them on harmful paths and taking them away from the middle path that is maybe safer for them. And I think the way to do so is through education. But now we are coming to the question, how can we educate 8 billion people in this world, and the number is constantly growing? And if we make a comparison to vaccination, because it's fashion now to speak about vaccination, and we know that if we maybe have 60% of the population vaccinated at the same time, we have the chance to get rid of this pandemic. It may be the same thing with education. If we don't manage to educate enough people at the same time, we maybe will not be saved from these risks that run over the internet. There was something else that I wanted to talk to you about, the GIB, that Marie-Hélène hasn't told you yet. I don't know if you're familiar with this bulletin that we are issuing every month, but I am sure, now it's been 7 years that I'm working on it, and I can say that it's one very important step towards educating people. And we in the GIB teams rather consider the GIB as Noah's Ark. Why? Because we have, our audience is ranked between freshman students at 20 years old to 90, 85 or 90-year-old generations. So the age rank that we can reach with the bulletin, with the nationalities that we reach with the bulletin, because it's a 5-language document coming out every month, the locations of the people, the fields of activities that they have, because we've run surveys and we realized that we had among our readers housekeepers, managers of small hotels, as well as European commissioners. So it really gives us this legitimacy to say that we reach out to a very broad and very large rank of people. And this is a very important step towards education. It's not the only one, but it's the one that we do and we are very proud of. And we invite you to read us every month. And one last thing about sourcing and referencing, something that I think also you, Pepe, mentioned, and Marie-Hélène, how important information, when you get it, it's to check it, to double check it, and to see who sends it over to you and to what purpose. And in the GIB, the last bulletin that has just come out 2 days ago, I counted 250 sources, links, hyperlinks that you find in the bulletin. And it means that our editors took the time and energy to identify them, to count them, to order them, to add them to their argument, just to make everybody realize that the information that we put in that bulletin is legitimate, is well-sourced, is argumented, and supported by other arguments of experts. Can you name another magazine or article that can do the same? I've looked in the, Financial Times articles. They maybe have 3 or 5 or maybe 10 sources for each article, but not more. So maybe this is also a way to tell people that information is there, but it's not necessarily there to do them good or right. They need to be very patient to check it, to be very careful to not let themselves emotionally impacted, and look, maybe take the time and energy to check who posted it and in what purpose. So this is about the information that I wanted to tell you about. And to wrap up my intervention, I know, Pepe, that some years ago you were discussing about MOOCs. And I checked today to see where these kind of online training is situated today. It's still very fashionable, but there is another form of education that is very fashionable on the internet right now. It's called VILT. It's the short form of virtual instructor-led online training. And it's a sort of equivalent of the GIG in a way, like allowing people to follow online trainings on various domains of activities in their rhythm, following their schedules, and according to their understanding in many languages. This is also another way of educating people. And I was very happy today to figure out that the MOOCs that we used to speak about and we wanted to create one day in the LEAP now have a sort of successor that we might take into consideration and LEAP with the training sessions that LEAP Academy is running currently in our network. Sorry, I think I was very long. Sorry, Maria.
Maria, on t'entend pas.
Okay, so no, Jetta, thanks. You put the attention on the important points, because in this mass world of information, the sources of information is important, and we have to learn also to manage with this. And as you said, there is some initiative as that you mentioned. Yesterday, I was with a journalist who, with other journalists in network, they created the European register for the web reporter, and so they check the information and they verify with the blockchain. So yesterday I discussed with him, because he wrote his last 2 books with this technology, to show that the information that he talked about in his books are not fake news, but are verified. So this initiative with yours are very, very important, because it's a question, it's a central question around politics, democracy and politics. And this point of view, politics, I would like to ask to Marianne, because the democracy, question democracy is important as framework for education. So, Marianne.
Yes, thank you, Maria, and thank you for the other speakers before. Thank you for the invitation also. Well, I was my topic was most about fighting political obscurantism, even with political and democratization, political engagement and democratization. Even if politics is a question of convictions, and then you of ideas and of values, but you can also through education, through politics, tackle the issue for democracy. Understanding politics and political participation is also educating the civil society, because citizenship is not only thinking or speaking or debating, but it's also acting. And it's very important that we can bring the citizens to understand first what their realities, what they want to fight for, and also how to do it and how to open and re-anchor them in their own realities. If you see we are actually in a world of the COVID, and in the meantime, we are also need to find. We are in the time of COVID and also in the time of internet, which means that we are in the time of lockdown with the COVID and in the time of openness to everything with internet. And so, what could we see in the last elections? For example, the Catalan elections last Sunday, where there was a very low turnout. And also the presidential election in Portugal with a much more very down turnout of voters, but because these 2 elections were made with outdated system, on the traditional election system. And so people who are locked down couldn't go vote or didn't want to go vote, even if there was a possibility for them to go vote, to vote on by mail, but they didn't do it. And because it didn't, I think there is on preparation of and taking over new tools. Even if the trend was already there, but I think we have that there are two issues to be tackled. Is how to bring the people to debate and to discuss on political issues for the civil society and for their future, and how to bring them to have to be more invested in political elections. Today, we can see the popularization of politicians. The politicians are already on the new tools. They are already using them. There are new experiences. They are close to be closer to the citizens. They are using the social networks. They are even on TikTok, Instagram, posting pictures, and on the other side, you have also the radicalization of citizens' engagement. Fight against racism, like Black Lives Matter, so ecology, but really on a global scale. And this is a more radical level. And then the third point is the lack of vision to protect the citizens, their rights and their values, and to understand what future they are building and can build. So we see rupture between the citizens and the representatives who are elected, a lot of confidence also in the political leadership, and the obsolescence of the elected assemblies, or more exactly of the election processes, because this is very important to understand that the people actually, with internet and in a COVID time, need to use and to understand new tools. So the question is how to renew the tools for new political framework, how to bring the citizens to take part in the political reality that is affecting their daily life, and not only on global issues, but also on local issues, on what is affecting their daily life, how to ensure the process that forces citizens to inform themselves and to re-anchor in reality, in their reality, not the reality of the other ones on the other side of the planet, on local and regional reality, but then also on national, continental, or global one. And the importance of a democratic political experience, which is even before education, because this political experience is educating people, is educating the citizens of the society today and of the society tomorrow. So, of course, we have to find the players for this issue. Civil society networks, media, we talk about it, institutions also, and setting the rules and finding the tool in a time of internet and of COVID, the new tools. So we can go through different technologies that are existing actually for citizens' participation, from bottom-up initiative or from horizontal initiative, and products and services of civic tech, which is called civic tech. You have a lot of apps and a lot of internet tools which enable you to have to organize internet on a virtual civil convention, civil assemblies, or different meetings like we are doing today, putting the different citizens in touch with each other and getting them to engage with the other ones, with their governments, because it could also be meetings with political leaders, with some administrative leaders, in order to work together for the public good. Civic tech is also a tool of service participatory democracy, and enable to reach a large number of connected citizens. And then you have the other way to go from top to bottom, is a GovTech, which are also new new virtual tools, which enable the governments or the institutions to ask the citizens to engage them in a circle of different meetings and conventions, and to enable the dialogue between the citizens and the public decision makers. But here, the flow is that most governments have not the time to develop such kind of tools, and of course these tools are mostly used to support the governmental policy, than to ask the citizens to give their own opinion and to have their say in what is done. These tools are also there are existing different experiences. You can go through the internet and you see that you have different applications like Neighborland or like Citizen Lab, which is a European community made of local actors of civil society organization who are exchanging between them on different sectors and different contexts dedicated to different experiments, action research, and co-creating and discussing through on the European scale what is going on. You have also a lot of local activities like that, and I think it's more coming on the local level. You have very most important work, which is done in time of the COVID, because the people are gathering together again on a much smaller scale level, and it's very important for them to go out from the problems and to find out how they can on their own level handle this. And so you have a lot of local experiences which are very important, and also we need to have this translocal or trans-European or trans-continental experiences, which are also possible and which are actually taken over directly by the European level, and also by the fact that you have more and more European politicians or European technocrats who are more and more interested in local or national activities, because they understand very much more the context and the way politics are going on. So, for example, like Draghi in Italy, who came from the European level. Then
Marianne, il est 22, il faut que Roberto...
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I will finish here. Thank you.
Marianne, okay, it's important your panoramic, because we see even in France what you say. I see here, for example, in my region, the Nouvelle-Aquitaine, because there is next very soon the election. So we have departmental and regional, and so we see for the citizens and then also for the politics a change of approach. And maybe also, as in other parts of Europe, the important is to be a connection with all that we may progress Europe, I think, better. So, Roberto, how we may address this and what to do?
Well,
a lot from our point of view.
I try to took note of what the previous speaker said, and I must confess there is a remarkable quantity of interesting things worth for days and days of reflections. I try to put together some concept from what I heard before. I will try to trace a sort of route. of what we have discussed. First of all, one thing that interests me a lot. I heard Maria Elena at the beginning speaking about obscurantism, and it is a very appropriate word. But tracing the origin of the word, we say obscure things when there is dark, less light. And I find that it is a paradox, in effect, since we are in an age in which we do not have a few things, but the paradox is that we have too much. And we know that problems often arise both when we have a few things and we have too much things. I think, and this is a topic that we also discussed in other programs on MRTV, people in the world, especially after the widespread usage of internet and all of the tools that internet brought about, people is faced with too much things. This, paradoxically, is not felt as a problem. It is, I think, something which is associated to the Western culture, in particular to North American culture. More is good. The more we have is good. And this is something that perhaps other cultures, not the Western slash North American ones, share. And it is a sort of paradox, since I see nobody asks themselves, why cannot we try to delete something? We are in an age in which we accumulate things in a very incoherent ways, and nobody thinks about, let us try of canceling it to see it more clearly. And these things, in particular, I see in the context of our relationship with history, with what has become before us. This does not mean that this what has become, it is not real. Since what has become yesterday, 2 days before, and so on, it's a cause of what we are now. And I like to remind something very interesting I read in the autobiography of Frank Zappa. Yes, the musician. In his autobiography, he talks about he speaks about nostalgia cycles. He said, okay, in our society there are cycles of nostalgia, of remembering what have become in the past, more and more rapid. I think that now we are coming near this sort of singularities, since these cycles tend to appear more and more rapidly. We are living in an age of acceleration. And I fear, at least from the point of view of each person cognition, this is an incredible challenge. I as a person, I am challenged today with an ever increasing quantity of information. And I think that it's against any reason, and I heard before speaking about Illuminism, I think it's against any reason to expect that every people, every citizen could be, and also to expect that in the future he will be able to, as we say, process such an accelerating amount of information. This is something that it's not, I think, to say, okay, it's good, not good. I think it's impossible. And then we heard about artificial intelligence and so on. All these are all signs that we need some help. We are not physically able to process this huge amount of information. And I think this is something which is related to our cognition of time and the changing of time. We know from a lot of traditions that managing time is something very important. I think we are facing a big, huge problem from all the society of how to manage time. We have to think about that every piece of information. It's not sufficient that we read an headline or read an article, a book. We have to process and integrate with our knowledge base. How can we do if we are overwhelmed by this huge amount of information? We cannot simply. And honestly, I think that a lot of instruments, tools that have everything is interesting. All of them at the end are designed to help us to manage this. And so, if we speak about education, I will first think about how to teach to us and to the young people that we want to educate how to manage our time, how to manage our resources. We are, I think we are in front of a sort of cognitive illusion that we are unlimited resources. Internet usage gives us this illusion that we have unlimited resources. I push a button and then everything comes to reality. But in fact, if we are not able to handle this, we are in the hands of the people who can handle this information. And we can see where is the power now. It's the power, I do not think, is having the single pieces of information. We can think about pieces of information as stones. With them, we want to build a house, we want to build a church, we want to build a big building. These are the pieces of information, but we cannot build an house, build a church, if we do not have something to put together the stones, and especially if we do not have a project, whatever it is. So I think that we must first relearn, rethink how to put together these stones, how to put together these various pieces, and this, of course, requires knowing not only what we are now. I see, and these are, remember Zappa, our focus is extremely concentrated to the present time. News is, at least, I perceive news as something that is related to the present time. What have become 1 day ago almost disappeared. What I see, I think like you, I have my social account, not too many, but Facebook and so on. And what I perceive is there is an incredible focus on the present time. Our thinking, it's today. And today we are dragged by news. We must learn in some way to carry the news, not to be carried by the news. And of course, one of the central points, when we think about how to put together these stones, we are thinking about what we call science in this wider sense. Science is not only how to build a rocket to the moon. Science is not only how to manufacture a vaccine, but it's first of all trying to put together all the things that we have, all the stones, in a coherent scheme. And I'm coming to my conclusion. I think that we must accept, and this is an incredible challenge, we must accept that there are different ways to put the stones together, and each of them is legitimate. In the past, we have been used in each of our cultures, we have been used to a single way to put together the stones. If you want, think about a pyramidal structure. There is a basis, there are various layers, and so on, so on, so on, so on, up to the top. And so we were used to think that there were a lot of small things, and then you have to climb this pyramid and go to on top. Because on top you have the most clear view of the plane, and you have the most important, and so on. And so this is our, of course, I oversimplifying. This is our way of seeing things. Other culture might have other ways of thinking to the same pyramid. For example, if you can think that the best way is to build a cube or whatever in this metaphor. The challenge will be to build a new schemes of putting together these things, and to do this in a way, and this I see the exchange of information, a common language, to accept that also other people do in a different ways. We have the illusion now, I think now it's illusion, I hope to be, I hope that this will not be the truth, but we have the illusion that there is some way to do things. And other things are wrong. Other people are... This is good when we are organized as national states, each one ruled by its own king or president and system of laws, a system of bureaucracy. Now we are facing a so-called global society. In this global society, what are the new kings, the new presidents, the new laws, the new system of bureaucracy? The paradox, if we want to call it a paradox, is that these new systems are already there, but are not made by people, are made by the clever people who come first. I would say Google, the big, all the big companies, since it's intrinsic to their, as I heard before about money, it's intrinsic to have life. But we have to be very, very cautioned that this is not laws made by people. And when we face with all this big infrastructure of internet and social and so on, I would teach to young people, even before how to access to Facebook, how to access to Twitter, what are the rudiments of informatics, I would teach young people how to recognize where the systems who are ruling now this global structure. These are, I could go longer, but the time, it's pressing. So first of all, I would recatch and try to teach people, to learn myself and to teach people to recatch our meaning of time. Hope having being understandable.
Ton micro, Maria.
Maria, tu parles dans le vide. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. You have finished. So, okay, I think
yes.
The point about the time, I think it's important. And also, I remind that we are in a context, in a framework prepared, and so in this framework is not so easy to take in hand for citizens. It's important to know this is clear. So someone want to react, or we can close, because I seen Jose left us. We have an urgent situation at the telephone, I think. So someone want to say, we can
No, I think I'll just say that it was indeed a very interesting, as Roberto said, very interesting discussion. I think.
Yes, because we closed this
again highlight the fact that there was Jetas from Romania, Roberto from Italy, Marianne from France, Jose Maria from Spain. So it's interesting to see, as Jeta was saying, the GIB capacity. We can talk together. If we are talking rational.
Yes.
No, but so thanks for the exercise once more.
Okay, thank you very much. So we give the appointment for next European Perspective. Thanks a lot to Jose, Marianne, Maria-Hélène, Roberto, Jeta, and so see you soon.
Yes, bye-bye.